Imagine you're sitting in a room where the most powerful law enforcement officer in the United States, the person who literally holds the keys to every federal cell, is looking you in the eye and telling you the sky is green. On Wednesday, February 11, 2026, Attorney General Pam Bondi sat before the House Judiciary Committee and did exactly that. She stood by a claim so easily debunked that it took me roughly 4 seconds and a government-hosted URL to catch her in a flat-out lie. With trafficking survivors sitting directly behind her in the hearing room, Bondi told Congress under oath that convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred to a same-level facility. This wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a psychological trap designed to make you believe the Department of Justice is just following standard procedure. But the receipts are receding, and the reality is that the fall-off of the DOJ's integrity needs to be studied. Let's look at the actual data.
Yes, please.
All right, the gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I have a few unanimous consent requests. I would like to submit into the record this New York Times article titled "Alex Pretty's Friends and Family Denounce Sickening Lies About His Life." I also would like to submit this Daily Mail exclusive interview with Vice President J.D. Vance titled "J.D. Vance Refuses to Apologize to Alex Pretty's Family After Spreading ICE Assassin Claim." One more. My last submission request is a New York Times article titled "FBI Agent Who Tried to Investigate ICE Officer in Shooting Resigns."
Without objection.
Thank you.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, I think you and pretty much everybody else here and throughout the country believes that convicted sex offenders don't deserve special treatment or privileges in prison. And yet Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, received perk after perk in prison. In July, she had a 2-day interview with your deputy and President Trump's former defense attorney, Todd Blanche. Just days after that, Maxwell was transferred from a federal correctional institution in Florida to a minimum security camp in Texas, which she, as a sex offender, would normally be ineligible for. At this new facility, as the ranking member talked about, and by the way, it's nicknamed Club Fed, we've heard reports that she's been afforded special privileges: puppy time, private workouts, personal mail, secretarial services. Attorney General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No. And
Thank you.
let me keep going. No, let me keep going.
Perfect. Well, I
did not know she was being transferred.
I asked you yes or no.
She was not transferred to a lower
Mr. Chairman,
level.
please stop the clock and remind the witness of the rules. One rule she needs to understand here.
And I'm glad that we're agreeing. So when we're agreeing, we can move on to some other things. But I want you to know that every time she does get these perks, and it's been publicly reported, that the folks she's abused, the survivors who are sitting here, they see themselves as being denied justice. They feel re-traumatized. And I'm glad that we agree on that. But she should not be in that prison. And she needs to be moved back to a maximum security prison as soon as possible. But what she has told another committee here is that she won't cooperate with them unless she gets clemency from Donald Trump. It's just crazy to consider that she can be wielding this kind of influence within the administration. But that begs the question: who ordered her to be transferred to the minimum security prison that she was ineligible for? Who signed off on the special privileges? Was it Mr. Blanche? Was it one of your other subordinates? So please, can you tell us who sent her there, since you don't agree she should be there?
I said I do not agree she should receive special treatment. She was transferred, I learned after the fact, to the same level facility, and that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level facility, I don't know why, but you know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should be talking about Irina Zarutska.
I have a couple
who
of
died
other
on a subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're right. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So of course we're moving back to you. It is all about you. So as we've heard, she took the fifth in response to every single question in that committee hearing. And her lawyer dangled the offer of clemency. Should Donald Trump pardon or commute her sentence? Should she be released from prison, yes or no? You said you hope she dies there, so I'm hoping the answer is no.
I already answered that question.
Good. I'm very glad. I really like this bipartisan agreement about
when
what
it
should
agrees
happen
with
with
you.
her.
But you
Yes.
don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You don't want to talk about
I talk about her
murdered
all
by
the
a
time,
violent crime
but
offender
I am not
in
here
your
to
jurisdiction.
testify before Congress. You are. That is your job today.
You are
That's what you're getting paid for.
obsessed with attack.
Time belongs-
So
time belongs to the
I
young lady.
want you to know that your own DOJ employee, he's recently been demoted and had some other problems, advises on pardons. Do you think he will be advising Mr. Trump on any kind of clemency or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm not going to speculate, and you couldn't even identify properly. That's why you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You couldn't properly identify her relative.
I absolutely
It's embarrassing.
have been, and her family, by the way, appreciates all of the condolences, all of the help, everything that our law enforcement in North Carolina has been doing to help her family. Her family feels well treated. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article by former Attorney General William P. Barr entitled,
Because while Bondi is out here playing the insider who doesn't know her own department, the Bureau of Prisons' own website tells a completely different story. Before this miraculous move, Maxwell was housed at FCI Tallahassee. According to the federal classification system, Tallahassee is a low-security federal correctional institution. It has double-fenced perimeters, electronic detection systems, and armed guards. Now she's at FPC Bryan in Texas. FPC stands for Federal Prison Camp. It is a minimum security facility. In the world of federal corrections, low and minimum are not the same thing. It's like saying a high-speed chase and a stroll through a park are the same level of cardio. FPC Bryan is a facility where inmates live in dormitory-style housing with no locked rooms and can roam outdoor recreational spaces with nothing but a chain-link fence between them and the world. It's nicknamed Club Fed for a reason, and the Attorney General of the United States just tried to tell the American public that there's no difference. This is where the gaslighting turns into a full-on PR masterclass in deception. According to the Bureau of Prisons' own internal policy, which falls directly under Bondi's jurisdiction, inmates with Ghislaine Maxwell's specific offender status are considered to have a public safety factor that legally requires them to be placed at least a low-security facility. The policy explicitly states that individuals like Maxwell are not appropriate for placement in an institution which would permit inmate access to the community, which is exactly what a minimum security camp does. To get Maxwell into FPC Bryan, the rules didn't just have to be bent, they had to be vaporized. Someone had to sign a waiver. Someone had to pull the strings. Yet, when Representative Deborah Ross pressed her on it, Bondi hit us with the ultimate coping and seething response. She claimed she didn't even know the transfer happened until after the fact. Think about the sheer audacity of that statement. You are the Attorney General. You oversee the agency that moved the most high-profile prisoner in the world, a woman who was essentially the keeper of the most dangerous secrets in Washington and Hollywood, and you're telling us you weren't in the loop? If that's true, it's a level of incompetence that should be terrifying. If it's a lie, it's a cover-up. Bondi's strategy here is classic main character syndrome. She wants to be the face of justice while taking zero responsibility for the special treatment happening under her nose. She told Congress it's a question for the Bureau of Prisons, passing the buck like a middle manager at a fast food joint instead of the nation's top cop. But the timeline of this transfer and who Maxwell was talking to just days before she got moved to the camp proves this wasn't just a clerical error. It was a calculated move, and the debunking of this same-level facility lie is just the tip of the iceberg. While the Attorney General is busy playing word games in D.C., the reality inside Club Fed in Texas is moving at a much more comfortable pace for the world's most famous inmate. Welcome to Chapter 2, Operation Club Fed. We aren't just talking about a change in scenery, we are talking about a total concierge-style renovation of what it means to serve time. According to explosive whistleblower reports shared by the House Judiciary Committee, Ghislaine Maxwell isn't just an inmate at FPC Bryan, she's treated like the facility's most pampered guest. While other inmates are lucky to get their mail in 3 weeks, Maxwell reportedly had the warden herself, Tanisha Hall, acting as her personal administrative assistant. Maxwell's legal team would email documents directly to the warden, who would then print them, hand-deliver them to Maxwell for edits, and scan them back. In the federal system, that's not standard procedure. That's a white-glove secretarial service funded by your tax dollars. But the perks don't stop at administrative help. The receipts suggest Maxwell has been living a life that looks more like a wellness retreat than a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking. We're talking about custom meals prepared and delivered directly to her dormitory by federal employees, and private exercise sessions where she is escorted after hours by prison guards so she can work out in peace away from the regular inmates. And then there's the detail that sounds like a fever dream: puppy playtime. FPC Bryan has a service dog training program, but normally inmates with Maxwell's history, crimes against the vulnerable, are strictly barred from participating. Yet whistleblowers allege that an inmate trainer was instructed to provide a puppy to Maxwell just so she could play with it. It's a sickening visual, a woman convicted of recruiting and grooming children now being handed a vulnerable puppy as a stress reliever while her victims are still fighting for a simple meeting with the DOJ. The most chilling part of Operation Club Fed isn't just the luxury, it's the silence that was bought to protect it. When other inmates at the camp began to notice this VIP treatment, they didn't just stay quiet. An inmate named Julie Howell, a former professor serving time for nonviolent theft, spoke to a British tabloid calling it disgusting and pointing out that human trafficking is a violent crime that has no business being housed in a minimum security camp. What was the DOJ's response? Did they investigate the perks? No. Within days, Julie Howell were reportedly yanked out of her training program and ghosted to a much harsher federal detention center in Houston. It was a clear signal to everyone else in the facility: if you speak up about Maxwell's special treatment, you will be punished. The warden reportedly held a town hall meeting warning inmates that anyone talking to the press would face similar retaliation. This is the dark reality of what's happening in Texas. While Pam Bondi tells Congress she doesn't know anything about it, the staff at FPC Bryan are reportedly so fed up with the special treatment that one senior official privately complained about being Maxwell's bitch. This facility houses white-collar criminals like Elizabeth Holmes, but even for Club Fed, this is unprecedented. It's a two-tiered system where the more you know, the better you live. We have to ask, what did Maxwell give the government to earn puppy time and private workouts? Because in the federal system, nobody gets the spa treatment for free. The receipts suggest a massive quid pro quo is unfolding, and the next chapter reveals exactly who was in the room when the deal was made. If you think the prison transfer was a fluke, you aren't paying attention to the guest list. Welcome to Chapter 3, The Blanche Connection. This is where the political theater stops and the actual power play starts. To understand how Ghislaine Maxwell ended up in a dormitory with no fences, you have to look at who was sitting across from her just days before the move. That person was Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. But here's the insider detail the mainstream media is glossing over. Before he was the number 2 guy at the DOJ, Todd Blanche was Trump's personal criminal defense attorney. He's the guy who stood by Trump in the hush money trial and his federal cases. Now he's the one conducting secret 9-hour interviews with the world's most notorious sex trafficker. This isn't just a conflict of interest, it's an absolute industry plant move that should have every skeptical American asking, why him? Usually when the DOJ interviews a high-level convict, they send line prosecutors, career lawyers who know the case files inside and out. They don't send the Deputy Attorney General, especially not one that just stepped out of the president's private legal team. But in July 2025, Blanche flew down to Florida and sat with Maxwell for 2 days. According to the transcripts later released by the DOJ, Maxwell didn't plead the fifth once. She was a chatterbox. She told Blanche that she never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting, and that whenever she saw him, he was a gentleman in all respects. She even went out of her way to claim she never recruited masseuses from Mar-a-Lago. It was a total exoneration to her delivered directly to the president's former lawyer under the guise of an official government interview. The timing here is so precise it feels scripted. Maxwell gives this glowing testimony, clearing the president's name from any Epstein-related fallout, and within days, she's packed her bags for FPC Bryan. The receipts show that Blanche told her this wasn't a cooperation deal, and he wasn't promising leniency, but the reality on the ground says otherwise. You don't get moved to Club Fed and get puppy time for telling the government you know nothing. You get those perks for telling the government exactly what they want to hear. Maxwell essentially became the ultimate character witness for the man who holds the power to pardon her, and she did it while being interviewed by that same man's former attorney. If you can't see the quid pro quo here, you're not just coping, you're blind. But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. While Maxwell was perfectly happy to talk to Blanche, her tune changed the second she was asked to speak to anyone else. When the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed her to testify about the client list and the other co-conspirators, the gentleman talk vanished. She suddenly remembered the Constitution and hid behind the Fifth Amendment. This is the open loop we're dealing with. Maxwell is willing to talk to the president's people to clear his name, but she's dead silent when it comes to giving justice to the survivors. It's a gatekeeping strategy designed to protect her only path to freedom. She's cleared the president's path. Now, as we'll see in the next chapter, she's ready to collect her payment. This brings us to the most dangerous phase of the game. Welcome to Chapter 4, the hostage negotiation. On February 9, 2026, the world expected Ghislaine Maxwell to finally crack under the weight of a congressional subpoena. Instead, she sat in a khaki prison jumpsuit at a conference table in Texas and turned a legal